Hello and welcome to Hooting Mandrills. I'm Jeremy.
I'm Sam.
And today we're going to be looking at the Secrets of Strixhaven Alchemy cards.
And just as a quick aside before we get into things, before we get into doing what is essentially a free advertisement for Wizards of the Coast, we should recognize that the Arena team is forming a union, and WotC has responded not by voluntarily recognizing this union, but by hiring another notorious union-busting firm from the notorious union-busting firm that we already knew they had a business relationship with. Capitalism, folks, it's bad. Support the WotC union and all unions of all the workers of the world.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's so messed up to do such a thing when, this is the only thing that makes Hasbro any money, and they're going to try and bust the union and try and extrapolate every piece of value. But alas, we can't fix it on this podcast today. Should we jump into the cards?
Yeah, start with a cool one. Blood Age Muster, red and a white enchantment. Whenever one or more cards leave your graveyard, conjure a random card from Blood Age Muster's spellbook onto the battlefield. Its base power and toughness perpetually become 2/2. This ability triggers only once each turn. And the spellbook is, you'll see on the right of the slide, it's a bunch of spirits that are mostly draft chaff from original Strixhaven and Secrets of Strixhaven. There are reasonable hits among them. All these things are spirits, so the mass pump for spirits from Blood Age General is relevant. Charging Strife Knight, if it's free, a haste looter is not irrelevant. Fuming Effigy Pings could maybe set you up some sort of combo kill. Spirit Mascot and Stonebinder's Familiar will likely grow beyond the 2/2 that they come in at. Docent and Dromedary are relatively efficient ways of re-triggering this thing once they die. So you can't just pop off like you can with Roots, but if you can trigger it on your turn and your opponent's turn, it's going to get you more than your money's worth of value. And also, when we talked about the commander cards for Secrets of Strixhaven, I remember saying Quintorius History Chaser is a card that I would really be all about if it were 3 mana and I could Savine's Wreck it back. This is 2 mana, you can Savine's Wreck it back. Is that enough for there to be a deck there in Historic rather than just an upgrade for a Quint deck in Brawl?
Hard to say. It's a tough sell in Historic to be playing stuff like this, but it's certainly fun. I don't know that it could shoot to high tiers, but it could certainly be playable in a deck that could get some wins. It's similar to Roots. It gets value over and over. It can get it on twice in a turn cycle, so not so bad. Up next, we have variable solutions for X and a green sorcery. If X is 1, seek a basic land card and put it onto the battlefield tapped. If X is 2, each opponent sacrifices an artifact of their choice. If X is 3, conjure a random creature card with mana value X onto the battlefield. If X is 4 or more, you gain 2 life, then do all of the above.
So this is sort of a take on multiple choice, if you remember that one from original Strixhaven. The 2 and 3 modes are quite bad. The X equals 1 mode isn't horrible. It's essentially a rampant growth, but it's a rampant growth that doesn't fix you reliably because it just seeks the land randomly. At X equals 4, it's a random creature is usually draft chaff, and it's overcosted because it's X plus 1 that you paid for it, but if it also seeks a land, maybe edicts an artifact, and gains 2 life, then that's pretty good. So this is sort of both rampant growth and payoff. Is that good enough for anything in Historic? I'm not sure, but being a rampant growth that it turns into a 5 mana ramp payoff is sort of cool.
With the Opus stuff and the X Matters type stuff, because there's that blue-green that makes, or you get to look at cards.
Geometer's Arthropod.
Yeah, the Geometer's Arthropod kind of thing. Maybe I saw Spike was messing around with that in Modern, so maybe this could be
more of a thing. Yeah, some people have done some messing around with that in Modern.
There's less free stuff that has...
not having Nourishing Shoal and whatever the blue shoal is called make it harder to make that work, but there is other X Matters stuff stuff in this alchemy set as well. So
potentially something there. This card seems a little weak because until you get to 4, all of them are bad. I mean, like 1 is okay, but like you don't ever want to be doing 2 unless they only have 1 artifact that you need to kill or something, you know.
Yeah,
and Quarry Steel Cutter is bad in Historic, so you know, like there aren't really 2 mana artifacts.
Quarry Steel Cutter is nerfed. Affinity just has too many artifacts that Edicting 1 is
if
very
I get
good,
to choose, I don't care.
Especially when it costs 3. Even when it costs 1, like pick your poison, it's a little bit of a tough sell unless they exactly go bridge go and you tag it or something.
Yeah, playing bridge is also usually a mistake.
At X equals 1, this is worse than Rampant Growth, but it is close enough to Rampant Growth that it's a card that you're not happy about. But having that modality of being both growth and payoff is sort of interesting, but it's probably a little underpowered.
And also, the X is 3, not to rag on this card too much, but 3 drops are usually pretty bad. Like 2 drops, even in like Momir, which is a little bit silly to talk about, 2s are usually more powerful than 3s, but that's okay.
I mean, this thing is Momiring. It's not that silly to talk about it. But yeah, X equals 3, getting a random 3-drop for 4 mana, that's probably effectively playing the card Hill Giant is what you should expect out of that. Roughly a 3/3 for 4.
Yeah, 4s are also pretty bad. All right, anyway, let's move on.
For a 4 that is a 4 for 5 is bad, but if it also gains you 2 life and ramps you a land and maybe kills an artifact,
then we're starting to talk some value. Yeah.
Speaking of talking some value, here's Summitfest Closing Ceremony. 3, a blue and a red for an instant. It starts at intensity 3, and it has a new alchemy mechanic called Cover Cast. So whenever you cast another instant or sorcery spell, if 5 or more mana was spent to cast it, this card intensifies. That is from anywhere. If it's in your hand, if it's in your deck, if you do the Opus thing, this card intensifies. And then when you cast it, it adds X blue and X red, where X is the spell's intensity. So if you did not manage to intensify it at any point in the game, you spend 5, it adds 6, and it draws a card.
If it's in your sideboard and you
I believe so.
It will also work. Okay.
I actually don't know for Cover Cast as far as zones. I think so. We talked last time, which was right before they put a bunch of Storm cards into Historic, and Storm is very, very good now. Whether it will still be at the time this goes up, who can say? They might decide that actually fast mana shouldn't have gone into the format on Monday, and you'll be scrambling to do something else if you're trying to Storm. Who knows? Honestly. But yeah, it is hard to actually spend 5 in Ruby Storm, or even in Belcher, really. Belcher doesn't really spend 5 on an instant or sorcery spell, ever. You
never spend the actual mana, yeah, so...
You spend 6 on the dragon in Belcher, but that's not an instant or sorcery, and Ruby Storm cost reduces all of its 5s down to 4s, usually, if things are going right for it.
But somebody tried to play a dragon against me with Storm 1, and I had 2 dragons, and I bounced it to their hand, and they lost the game instantly. So sometimes the Storm is bad against Affinity anyway, but I don't see this card at all. This card sucks. Even in the red-blue Storm decks, which I think are weaker than the mono-red version, I just don't see this card, really.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's maybe for Brawl and not for much else.
Whenever you make us pay, it's not ever going to work out. All right, this card is sick. Probably not very good, but whatever. We like it anyway. Ursine Guide for 2 and a green. It's a Bear Druid 3/3. This creature enters prepared. Whenever you cast a spell that isn't from your starting deck, conjure a card named Bear Cub onto the battlefield. This creature becomes prepared. And then Ranger's Merit is the stapled on sorcery for 3 and 2 green. Put a 1/1 counter on each bear you control. They gain trample until the end of turn.
So it's not altogether clear to me what a spell that isn't from your starting deck means. There's things that clearly work, the obvious joke is that this works with prepared spells and with things that you conjure, or things that you take from your opponent's deck, Heist or similar mechanics. I am not sure if this works with adventures. Is Stomp considered to have been in a spell that was in your starting deck, or just Bone Crusher Giant? I don't know. It's impossible to know until this goes up on Arena. Maybe try it against Sparky. There's also a number of cards from around the very early 2020s that have this weird formatting where they exile a card, create a copy, and then cast that copy. Is that copy a spell that wasn't in your starting deck? I think so, based on
how it should work.
How that seems to be phrased. Demi-Lich is the most prominent card that works this way, though obviously you aren't playing Ursine Guide in Phoenix, but just as an example of that sort of templating. Yeah, card's weird, for sure. I feel like you need to trigger it twice to feel very good about it.
Yeah, you probably need this card to be going off. And luckily it's only 1 green and not 2, or it might actually see like Karn, like starting deck, does that include your sideboard?
It does not. So companions and things that you wish for with Karn or other wish effects would work.
Ban Karn, the Great Creator, yeah. But anyway, yeah, I don't know. Don't play this in Green Devotion. It's bad. Or actually do. So your deck's worse.
I think this card is wholesome in that, I don't think it's good enough to play in Green Devotion. Like, whatever you Karn for is just winning the game. Who cares if you got an additional bear out of it? I don't know. I suspect it's bad. I suspect it's going to be hard enough to have it live, and actually, if it lives and triggers once, it's okay, but not really at historic power level. If it triggers twice, I think it is, but
hard to quickly get 2 triggers on this thing.
Yeah.
Awesome card, but yeah, just like
probably
really difficult.
Banger limited card.
All right. Up next, we have Advanced Floral Invocations for 1 hybrid green-black. It has landfall whenever a land you control enters, mill 2 cards, and then you can level it to 2. Whenever a land you control enters, creature cards in your graveyard perpetually get +1/+1. And then for 6, 2 of them having to be hybrid green-black, you may play lands and cast creature spells from your graveyard. If you cast a spell this way, that creature enters with a finality counter on it. So kind of cool, self-mill sort of stuff. It's sort of reminiscent of that other talent with the squirrel on it, but not
Scavengers.
This is obviously having more to do with landfall stuff.
Yeah, this is easier to trigger and costs half as much as Scavenger's talent, which are both nice things, especially in powerful formats. I like this a fair bit. I think what you're getting when you invest 2 mana into this is pretty good. As ever, put Slitherhead on Arena.
And never put Amulet of Vigor on Arena.
Yes, if you're doing like White of the Reliquary Bloodghast stuff, this sort of landsy stuff that I would always like to be good, you sack a Bloodghast, get a land, trigger this thing, mill 2, perpetually make the Bloodghast and all the other creatures in your graveyard +1/+1, and then get the Bloodghast back. You're kind of vibing. That sounds fun.
Very good with like Ice Till Explorer, where now your lands mill you 3 cards and you can just keep playing them out. And yeah,
Ice Till Explorer. There's also a weird janky vehicle from Duskmourn, also at the 4-drop slot, called Hedge Shredder, where
I like Hedge Shredder.
Where when you mill over a land, you put it into play. If you have this thing and that thing, you mill a land, it goes into play, you mill more, you maybe hit more lands, and kind of just shred your deck, which hopefully wins you the game somehow. It ramps you a lot.
This card must break Alchemy, right? They might have to change this card immediately. Because mono green landfall is mostly Alchemy legal, right? I mean, I don't know where Alchemy starts and ends. It doesn't really matter. Alchemy is stupid, but...
Alchemy is on a 2-year rotation from Standard, so Duskmourn has rotated out of it.
You don't need much from Duskmourn, I don't think. Because you just need Final Fantasy.
I think Final Fantasy may have also, actually.
Well, if that's the case, it's a little harder.
Edge of Eternities was when Standard rotated last, so that might be the oldest set in Alchemy.
Okay.
Or wait, no, that wouldn't make sense. Sorry, it would be the previous rotation before that one that would be the oldest set in Alchemy.
So we must have Final Fantasy still. Yeah. So then, you've got the whole mono green deck already. This card just slides right in. You can still Aether Drift is out, so Bloodghast is out, but the first ability is probably good enough. You can probably still get some value with the second ability in Alchemy somehow. Do you have anything more to... Sorry.
You're good. The thing that worries me most about this card is that it's another of these like enchantment engine cards like Insidious Roots, like Chthonian Nightmare, like Birthing Ritual. They're all pretty good, but you can only play so many of them before your deck just doesn't function because it needs to have creatures in it. And,
yeah, that's an important step.
This card does seem interesting in and around many of those other cards, but I certainly want to try it. Like I said, I really would like White of the Reliquary, Bloodghast type rootsy stuff to be a thing that you could do in Historic, and so I'll probably give this a try, but...
Could maybe go Absent, because Knight of the Reliquary is on Arena, right?
Yes.
I mean, you're probably putting a ton of lands in your yard with this, so I don't know. Maybe too expensive. 3 drops are expensive, but it's a cool card. I really like it as well. All right, up next, we have Distracted Botanist for 1, a black and a green. It's a Frog Druid 3/2 with Death Touch and Lifelink. When this creature dies, permanent cards in your graveyard perpetually gain. When this permanent enters, you draw a card and gain 1 life. So
that is a really powerful effect. It is on a death trigger of a 3-drop.
Yeah.
You know,
Flare of Malice, legal with this. I mean, not in Historic, but...
Being a 3-drop means that sacking it proactively is generally going to be a little more painful. At least the body isn't terrible. Like, it does trade with Baragoyf and Pyrogoyf in combat. Psychic Frog flies over it generally. You will not get to do frog-on-frog violence, but Death Touch is... Things are so fucking big in Historic. All of the, like, conventional fair threats, now that Ajani is gone, and we're left with just Frog and Goyfs as the premier things to be doing in those sorts of decks. Death Touch is at more of a premium, because actually being able to trade in combat with these giant monsters is the only way to actually do combat with anything other than those giant monsters, or, you know, Tameo Hydro type of whatever stuff. So that's okay. When you get this trigger, it is quite powerful. It is still just a 3-drop though, so...
Yeah, you can Coco it, you could... I mean, every deck you run into on the Historic ladder, at least for me, is a Birthing Ritual deck, so maybe you could just play this and not be too worried about it. It's actually probably insane in Yawgmoth, right? Like, your young wolf just keeps coming back and drawing you cards. Like, honestly, like, that's... Now that I thought about it for 2 seconds.
Yes, and you've gotten me to think about it for 2 seconds, and yes, if you put...
And with Court of Calling, you only have to play 1, right?
This does enable you, if you can put it... I guess the young wolf has to already be in your graveyard and then come back somehow, which is weird, but...
When it dies, it goes to your graveyard for a second, no?
Oh, yes. So with the Undying trigger on the stack, you sack this thing, and that puts it on the young wolf. And yeah, okay. This seems like a card that I would be interested in, at least as a one-of to, you know, chord Birthing Ritual, whatever, for in Yawgmoth. And it, you know, like Hapatra or any of these other, like, cutesy Yawgmoth cards, where there certainly are lines that this enables that basically solve all your problems and simplify your infinites. That is a powerful thing.
Yeah, that seems like a really good application for this. So, yeah, it might not be like your actual, like, wholesome mid-range, you know, Golgari threat, but in your unfair Yawgmoth deck, yeah, I don't know. I should probably just be main decking Grafdigger's Cage at this point in this fucking format. No, I love Historic. I've been a hater in the past, but I haven't played Standard since Secrets came out, and I'm having a great time.
I have seen Affinity main decking Tormod's Crypt.
Oh, I main deck for Tormod's Crypt.
Okay, but Cage too, because Graveyard Circus.
Graveyard Circus, but also every deck, like I said, is Birthing Ritual. Every deck I go into is Birthing Ritual, so I'm just like, if you guys all want to play Birthing Ritual, I'll main deck Grafdigger's Cage. You win. Scalar Scholar for green and a blue. 2/2 Salamander Wizard with Increment. When this creature enters, each card you own with X in its mana cost perpetually gains this spell cost 1 less to cast.
Yeah, so this one definitely does include your sideboard. Oh, it has Increment too. I didn't even notice that the first time around. That's neat. Yeah. I mean,
I really like this one. This one seems fun.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, there is some X-Spell stuff that you could perhaps explore. You don't have access to Shoals in Historic like you do in Modern to just pitch spells that trigger your arthropod and get the value back immediately. But, this is certainly a card that you can Chord or Zenith for. Those are both X spells. Another X spell that people I haven't seen anyone actually do it, but people have talked about it as maybe being good with Nadu is Mutagen Man from TMNT, because mutagens are a way to trigger Nadu, and he also discounts Tameo clues, which are a relevant thing in the historic format.
I wonder with the Ooze if you could go infinite with Mutagen Man and Nadu. I get it's 3 cards, but...
Nadu is nerfed in historic, so it's capped at 2 per turn total. So probably not infinite, but triggering Nadu a couple of times is
you win the game.
is enough to bury most opponents most of the time. There's also an interesting Alchemy X spell that is sort of just waiting for the right card to show up to make it broken. This is not necessarily the card that makes it broken, but it is a card that makes it cost less, which is generally powerful. Plunderer's Prize. X and a blue sorcery, you seek a non-land artifact card with mana value X or less and put it onto the battlefield. If a card with mana value less than X is put onto the battlefield this way, this spell perpetually gains. This spell costs 1 more to cast, then return it to its owner's hand. So the place you see Plunderer's Prize is blue versions of Belcher, where you play this for X equals 4 and it gets a Belcher. Belcher is probably not very blue, certainly not blue-green, at least unless a Storm gets... Or unless, at least unless they take the red rituals away from historic again, or after having put them in, which who can say. But if you have 0-cost artifacts in your deck, there aren't a ton that are that great in historic, but Mox Amber, maybe something you conjure with Oracle of the Alpha. Plunderer's Prize can find them, and if you find a 0 casting it X equals 1, which this guy discounts to effectively just 1 blue mana, if you get a Mox and return this to your hand, and then it just costs normal, that seems like a pretty reasonable deal. Maybe you just go crazy with X spells in Nadu. Plunderer's Prize can find Lightning Greaves. Is that good? I don't know.
Probably. Yeah, I like this card a lot. You could obviously, I forget what the one that's instant speed and legal, but there's the blue flicker ability that's legal in Pioneer.
Essence Flux.
Essence Flux. Okay. Sorry, couldn't summon that one. But it's a salamander instead of a frog, so you don't get any splash portal value, but...
Actually, Hide on the Ceiling is an X spell. I know it has not done anything since we were kind of high on it with Spider-Man, but...
Hide on the Ceiling, kind of fun. Yeah, that's a good one.
Hide on the Ceiling, a bunch of things, including your Nadu, resets your Nadu.
Busted. We broke Nadu, folks. We're professionals. This card's cool. Nadu, not so cool, but...
Nadu X spells is... maybe a thing I'm gonna try. I never played Modern or any format where Nadu was especially dominant or oppressive. Outside looking in, I kind of don't hate the bird. I think I said when we talked about Nadu being banned in Legacy that the non-combo just Bant value mid-range Nadu is probably what I would have played if someone had offered me randomly, hey, you want to go to Eternal Weekend and just play whatever you want.
Play this $10,000 deck.
Yeah, play with it. As long as you don't damage the cards that are each worth what you spend in rent in a month. That's not true. I spend slightly more than the cost of a Trop in rent in a month. Again, capitalism bad.
But pretend online cardboard cards good. Yeah, we like. We don't like the capitalism aspect.
Alchemy uncommons, they kind of go. This card is, I think, actually pretty good, and I kind of want to try building some sort of Nadu pile with it.
Cool. All right, up next we have Corpseweaver Prodigy for 2 and 1 black. We have a Treefolk Warlock 2/4 Death Touch. If a creature an opponent controls would die, exile it instead. And then Infusion. At the beginning of your second main phase, if you gained life this turn, conjure a card named Bridge from Below into your graveyard.
Yeah, so the joke here remember is that as long as it remains alive, it protects the bridge from below because your opponent's creatures go to exile instead of dying. And then if it dies, then bridge from below is just there in your graveyard. Card that got banned in Modern, albeit arguably for Hogak sins. Bridge from Below is a weirdo one. It was originally printed in Future Sight, probably in part of why it's so weird. It doesn't do anything in play, which is good because this card doesn't conjure it there. When it's in your graveyard, whenever a non-token creature you control dies, you make a zombie. So you do need to trigger Infusion for this. So the deck that most seems like this card makes sense in it is something like Jetstorm, or that would most be interested in having Bridge from Below in its graveyard is something like Jetstorm. And the infusion trigger for that is a Blood Artist, and if you're already Blood Artisting and Nightmaring, do you need or want this thing? I don't know. Leaving the bridge in your graveyard means if you can trigger it once, maybe you just have that as an alternate win con in that deck. You can say maybe there's some other sort of sacrificey pile that can gain life that would be interested in this. It is a pretty powerful effect.
It does it every single turn, too.
You're right, as long as it sticks around.
And you gain life every turn.
Yeah. Infusion isn't exactly an ETB, but it's pretty close. And, yeah.
I mean, it has 4 toughness, so, like, and you'd have to trigger Revolt for
does not die
Fatal
to Chain
Push.
Lightning. Yeah, does not die to Chain Lightning, non-Revolt, Fatal Push. Yeah, many of the Patriarch's Humiliation does tag it, but most likely, well, it might not kill it, but would turn it off, which is about the same. You know, Fragment Reality into a 3-drop is pretty rough. So, yeah, it does survive a lot of relevant things.
In Alchemy, it doesn't die to Shoot the Sheriff. That's not legal anymore in Alchemy, probably. But I love talking about Shoot the Sheriff.
Oh, yeah,
targets.
shoot the Sheriff. Yeah.
It's a joke that I have with myself, so.
Shoot the Sheriff does seem like the worst Doomblade of all time. Like,
it is, yeah. It's terrible.
Yeah. Like, you know, people really want to try these Golgari rock decks, and like they say that it's the format is too fast and too. Jund is good.
Your Delian Fell is a 4-mana removal spell that dies to a Burst Lightning. It's not a good card. I'm sorry, guys. It isn't a good card. It's just a Planeswalker.
Yeah, I don't know that it's
not a bad card.
Delian Fell's fart.
But
I don't know that it's his fault as
no,
a
not
card specifically.
But that's why people went back to Golgari,
yeah,
right?
Yes, but you know, Jund is good when your Tarmogoyf is the thing that doesn't die to Lightning Bolt and everything else in the format dies to Lightning Bolt. And the Golgari decks in Standard, their removal lines up really badly against everything, and everything else's removal lines up pretty fine against them. And that's not a recipe for success as the rock deck.
No, your removal should be the good removal, yeah.
You know, not to digress too far. But yeah, this card, Bridge from Below, is powerful, and if you can trigger this in a deck that is interested in having a Bridge from Below in its graveyard, it's probably pretty good.
I agree, yeah.
All right, here's a card that's not very good. I think this is like, we're working off of a Japanese card image, which doesn't have its name. It's like Paradigm Sculptor or something. When it enters, you conjure a card from a spellbook, which is just the 5 Paradigm lessons into your hand, and tap to add 2 mana of any color to cast instants and sorceries. And yeah, he's a 2/2. This just seems like a worse way of accessing a Paradigm spell than
learning.
You know, I twitch with, Culling the Weak Phyrexian Tower, sacrificey type stuff.
Yeah, or even just like the 1 mana red learn spell, or set class, whatever.
Lessons package, prowess.
Also not very good in Historic because of Corey Steelcutter, but yeah. Yeah, I don't know. This card's kind of bad.
Another card that I think is kind of not quite making the cut, but not positive, Rebounding Phoenix. It's a 2/1 flyer, and performance, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, it perpetually gets +1/+1. 5 or more mana was spent to cast that spell. You may exile the Phoenix, then return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control. And this ability also triggers if the card is in your graveyard. So this is sort of like a weird control-y finisher, maybe if you're you're trying to play Faithless Looting to flip Tamiyo, you put this in your graveyard, you dirtle and do control things, and eventually you just hard cast Lorien Revealed or something. And
this is not a wizard, correct?
it is not. It is a Phoenix, which makes that worse. It also seems very similar to Callum Jin Emperor for that sort of deck, and I think Callum is better. A lot of the 5-mana spells you would actually be interested in casting in even slower control decks are sweepers, which you don't really want to cast this into. I cast Sunfall. I return my Rebounding Phoenix. Sunfall resolves. It's in exile forever. This seems bad.
Yeah, it also doesn't have haste, so like
it returns tap too.
It returns tap. It's
block.
Never gonna do anything. Yeah, I don't like this card. Phoenix is already really good in Historic. Like,
it's certainly not a Phoenix card. It's like,
but like that's kind of what it's trying to do, right? Like,
well, I think
maybe
it's
it'd be
trying
better
to
in Control, but
I think
Control's better
a
at blue-white
card.
now.
And yeah, I think being red and being worse than Callum for that sort of slower control deck make it just not very exciting. Another card that I think is not very exciting but is sort of weird and interesting is the Mystical Archive. A mythic land. As it enters, you draft a card from Mystical Archive's spellbook and exile it face down. Taps for colorless. It filters into mana for spells that aren't same questions and things as the bear. And then for 2 mana and tapping this, you can put the card exiled with this land into its owner's hand. So the cards it drafts are the current Mystical Archive, the one from Secrets of Strixhaven, not original Strixhaven. I mean, colorless land that 2 and taps to draw a card, even if it can only do it once, would be quite good. This card is not exactly that. The Mystical Archive card you get will actually usually be worse than a random draw from your deck.
Ouch.
Like, Force of Will is not something you want to have unless you're blue, for example. And I guess that's maybe not entirely true. There's some decent removal spells. You do get to draft it.
Right, and Daze is too slow off this thing, because by the time you get it to be able to get the card back, Daze is like they should have enough
Daze
mana.
Is dead, yeah. There are a fair number of decent removal spells on the Mystical Archive. There are decent cantrips. There's Stock Up.
Is Monstrous Rage?
Yes, actually. Monstrous Rage, Giant Growth. If you know, a combat trick is kind of a rough
don't want
sell
that either.
on this too.
So when you draft it, do you just see 7 cards and you get to pick one? Or how many do you see?
I think you see 3.
3 cards.
It's been a while since I played a card that drafted from a spell book.
3 is really rough too, so like you could easily just get cards out of your colors. I mean, this thing can kind of fix for it, but
yeah, I mean,
at that point, you've spent $1 million to draw a card.
This thing being able to fix for it is like probably good enough. I think the biggest problem with it is it's just a colorless land at the baseline. I don't know. You know, it has ability mana, so you could theoretically like use like something like the Enigma Jewel to, you know, convert jewel mana or other ability mana type things. Every Power Stone card is dog shit, but if theoretically there were a good one day. But I don't even know that this is as good of a filter land as others that you can play in Historic, but don't, because like, what are you gonna do? Play like Super Friends with the Enigma Jewel with those filter lands? Probably not.
It seems like a tough sell. I mean, they're trying something, but the numbers are kind of expensive on this card. And
well, the numbers are okay, right? Like, I mean, if this were just a soul land for stuff that you didn't own, I think it would be very, very good. So like 1 makes sense there. 2 and tap for a land to draw a card is actually kind of insane. Even
one
if it
time,
can only do it once.
But
the card you draw has to actually be good, and I'm not convinced that the card you draw with this will be good.
Yeah, it has to be in an specific deck, really, to allow for you to survive long enough for that to be an option. Because, like, yeah, I don't know. I can see where it has some potential, but, like, what are you doing with, like, a Brain Freeze? Or, like, there's so many cards on the Mystical Archives that just don't do anything, so...
You probably get an okay one off of looking at 3, but, yeah, it's rough. Would you, like, in an Enigma Jewel deck, like, Standstill, can you afford a colorless land? Depends on how many colors you are, I guess. I don't know. None of my Standstill ideas really worked because, like, I probably just don't have a good enough sense of how control is supposed to work. or be built.
Play Psychic Frog.
Yes, therein was my problem. But yeah, I did generally feel like I wanted to be in a bunch of colors, and if you want to be in a bunch of colors, you don't want to play this.
It's rough, but it's an interesting concept, and like drawing a card, like you say, for 2, even if it can only be done once, isn't horrible. But maybe there's some shenanigans with earthbending it and, like repeatedly having it come back to keep getting you archive cards in like a green-blue control or something, but that also sounds cooked once I say it out loud.
All right, next up, Honor the Past. 2 and a white for a sorcery, return target creature card with mana value 6 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. It's an artifact and no longer a creature. So this is kind of a downside in that the creature can't attack or block, but it can also be an upside if there is a particular static ability that you're looking to make harder to kill. Non-creature artifacts are that, or if being harder to kill in a particular way makes a creature card do something weird. Case in point, Devoted Druid. Banned in Historic, but if you honor the past, bring back a Devoted Druid, it is an artifact, not a creature. It, A, is not summoning sick, it can tap for mana immediately, and B, it does not care how many -1/-1 counters are on it, at least in terms of whether it sticks around or dies. You can untap it ad infinitum and make infinite green mana. So, is this a powerful enough thing to be doing in Timeless? Maybe. We did get Survival of the Fittest recently, which is not a way to find Honor the Past, but is a discard outlet for Devoted Druid, and a way to turn not even an infinite amount, but 16 green mana, or I guess if it's in your hand, 18 green mana will, and a creature card in hand, will Survival for Emrakul, cast it. That will win you the game, probably. You also get 1 copy of Channel, which you sometimes will just be able to use to cast an Emrakul. Maybe that's a deck. It's certainly a thing that sounds like something you could try in Timeless if you are desperate to make Survival of the Fittest work, which I kind of am.
This is a cool card. I'm sure that there's other stuff to do with it too. I mean, obviously, yeah, Devoted Druid infinite mana is a very powerful strategy. 2-card infinite mana is pretty good.
Yeah, I was looking for like weird static abilities that would be oppressive on an artifact. Most of them are cut off by the 6 or less cap, which sort of shuts you off from most of the classic powerful reanimation targets. Obviously, this is probably worse than a Necromancy would be, even if it could get back Atraxa. The 7/7 lifelink Vigilance Flyer is pretty relevant to that. But for example, you're not getting back Void Winnower with this, and you're not just getting an artifact Void Winnower off this. I am pretty sure there's no Platinum Angel effect below 7, so no artifact Platinum Angel type of stuff, which Jeremy will be happy to hear. So I don't know exact. People were chewing on it. I don't know that they've come up with anything yet, but it's a weird enough effect, and it's on a pretty reasonable rate. Like, Devoted Druid Swift reconfiguration has seen a little bit of play in Legacy, just turning Devoted Druid into a car, and so that you can do this thing. This is a weird, not very common, and potentially powerful effect, so...
I wonder if it's good in, like, Merfolk or something, like the tap-untap infinitum type stuff, since you get the creature with haste as an artifact, and it's still a merfolk, even if it's not a creature. I don't know. I'm not sure if that's good. That sounds bad, but I wonder if there's something in the, like, same space as the Agatha's Soul Cauldron, like that.
If you ever see a really wild tap ability on a
creature under 6 CMC.
Yeah, especially if it has a type that cares about tapping, like, you know, Merfolk, Dwarf.
Oh yeah, Dwarf could be fun, I guess. Is that card that draws 3 cards a 5-mana card, or is it
Arcanus? I think he is a 5.
So
Arcanus, Arcanus, the whatever he is. Loot the Pathfinder is a 5 CMC with a bunch of tap abilities. He has haste anyway, but one of those abilities is Ancestral Recall, which is pretty good. It's less good
at once only.
It's less good at once only, and if you have to spend and 3 mana get into play. But, the blue Emeritus has seen some play in some formats.
Yeah, so that might be something. Okay, up next we have Unbreakable Remnant. For 1 white, 2/1 Spirit Soldier, escape. For 1 and a white, exile 2 other cards from your graveyard. When you cast this spell from your graveyard, all cards you own named Unbreakable Remnant perpetually get +1/+1. So it's like the best Savannah Lions you've ever seen, but it's still a Savannah Lions at the end of the day.
This is kind
with Luris, it's kind of
this
crap,
is kind of an absurd card, right? I mean, the competition for cheap creatures in white weenie style decks in Historic is insane. Guide, Pride, all of that stuff. Ajani is gone, and Ajani being gone does maybe mean that you are no longer as incentivized to play red in your Guide, Pride decks, especially if you are mono white. But this card is just good. It's a Savannah Lions that, probably trades for something, a removal spell or an opposing cheap creature, or gets in for a little bit of damage. Escape 2, exile 2 cards is also kind of nutty. And
there's a lot of
it comes back as
red-white leaves your graveyard synergies recently as well.
A lot of leaves your graveyard, and you don't even need to necessarily escape this, because if you just cast it off Luris, that is also casting it from your graveyard. Grows all of them, so other ones that you draw are maybe just coming out not as Savannah Lions, but 1 mana 3/2s, 1 mana 4/3s. Also has 2 relevant types. Both Spirit and Soldier have synergies that you could pursue with them if you wanted to. I don't know if that's as good. There is a little bit more breathing room for a card like this, which again is just kinda absurd. Absent the context of Modern Horizons 3 makes it a little less so, but this is
a nutty busto. I'm sure Alchemy is mono white must be busted in Alchemy anyway. This card probably fucks that format up. So we'll see how long it remains like this, I guess. But even if it was escape 2 and a white, or 2 white in a generic, that's still pretty powerful. And like you said, with the Luris, it doesn't even matter what the escape cost is. Okay, up next we have Interdisciplinary Studies. For 2 and a blue, seek a multicolored card and learn.
It is an instant, but this is sort of in the stock-up space of
get 2 good cards.
A divination where you pretty consistently get 2 good cards.
Well, 1 good card. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, 1 good card and then you get to learn. It is only a tutor if there is only a single multicolored card in your deck. A thing that people were talking about as potentially the only multicolored card that you could put in a deck is Violent Outburst. As I've said a lot, I'm pretty skeptical of Rhinos as an archetype, because the 2 4/4s just lose to a lot of fair threats that don't require you to warp your deck around them in combat. And it's harder for Living End to meet the restriction of Outburst being the only multicolored card, because they're interested in cards like Wistfulness or the Lorwyn Eclipsed Evoke Elementals. Most builds that I see of Show and Tell, Sneak and Show, whatever, do play Atraxa as their only multicolored card, but I can't imagine they would ever play this card over stock up, because Atraxa is not always what you're looking for. I guess I should also say that in addition to being able to tutor from a lesson board, Learn can be discard and draw, so you could play this as sort of Entomb draw card.
In Living End, like with Violent Outburst, or are you talking about a different deck?
Oh, I was thinking that you seek the Atraxa and then you discard the Atraxa to draw, and in some sort of Reanimator deck. You could also do that in Living End. That is a relevant thing. If you do forego Wistfulness, Vibrance, whatever one, probably Wistfulness.
Hard sideboard matchup after that, probably. But
at least in your main deck, then this can be, tutor Violent Outburst and discard a fatty and draw. That's not bad. And it hurts a little less not to have access to cards like that when you have access to a lesson board to punch through hate pieces and stuff for Living End.
That's true,
you
right?
tutor Violent Outburst, you
tutor
Origin of Metal Bending, and you get to
Shatter
blow up
there, yeah. their hate piece. That's true. So maybe you don't care about wistfulness in that version of Living End. It's a little different than the Cascade one, Marauder Cascade with the Delirium, obviously. But I could see it. I mean, it's instant speed, so, like, if they, like, tap out on their turn and you don't have the outburst, but you have this, you get this, on your turn you outburst. Living End maybe win. It's interesting, and like you said, there's the Learn has multiple modes, and both are interesting. Like, people use the Learn on iTwitch to discard in a lot of Reanimator type decks. It's definitely cool. It's a little slow at 3 mana, but I get why it can't be 2.
Like I think this is pretty fringe. Like I said, in the only real stock-up deck in Timeless, Show and Tell, I think this is pretty clearly worse. 3 mana is a lot to ask.
Sometimes you need the Show and Tell, you don't need the Atraxa.
Right.
You know, so it's like you can't really count on something that only ever gets you one side of it.
Here's another one, or this is another cool card that I'm not sure what to make of. Feed the Bog, 1 and a black, replicate 1 black. You may pay replicate any number of times, and you copy the Feed the Bog for that number of times. And each copy of Feed the Bog says creature cards in your graveyard perpetually get +1/+1. Then return target creature with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So this is an expensive Unearth, but with a little bit of upside, but then it can be a really expensive double Unearth. Sort of a graveyard Coco, or a, 6 mana, put 3 things with +5 power across them into, 1, 2, and then 3. The first one you target will get +3/+3. So you have to be a little careful with the UI there, because the last one that resolves is the one that gets the biggest bonus.
I think this card's really good.
Frog decks just do get to hardcast Riddler mana in Historic.
You draw so many cards off the Frog.
Yeah, you draw a lot of cards.
Just like,
you hit your land drops, you
discard whatever you want to bring back. Yeah, it seems really good in the Froculus type shell.
Yeah, I don't know how good it is. It's certainly an interesting card for a Roots Sicko. I don't know if it's better than Chthonian Nightmare in terms of being a way to spend 1 and a black over and over on the same turn to reanimate a bunch of stuff. You do have to sacrifice stuff to Nightmare.
Can you pay the replicate cost off of Bolas's Citadel, or do you pay the replicate with mana? And
you will always pay the replicate cost with mana.
Okay.
So if this is on top of your deck and you have a Bolas's Citadel, you will
pay 2 life,
and then
you can
1 and
pay
a black any number of times.
It might be good in the mono black Bolas's Citadel. I know that deck's a little fringe in Historic, but
it's Jetstorm.
The Jetstorm. You want to bring back a lot of under 3 CMC cards. You
do produce kind of a lot of mana.
You make a lot of treasures.
It's not as good with the Mox Jet either, because only the first
one gets discounted.
So this is
maybe more fringe in that deck. But
this is also a card that becomes really interesting if there are a bunch of old cards that aren't on Arena but show up in Modern or whatever from time to time and get reprinted in Commander products, and therefore might be special guests at literal any time. One of those that is pretty interesting with this, or would be pretty interesting with this, is Crypt of Agadeem.
Oh yeah. Just make a bunch of black mana.
Yeah, you make black mana equal to the number of creatures in your graveyard, and that isn't entirely paying for, replicate on all of those creatures, but it's paying for replicate on a lot of those creatures. Half-ish of them. And so, a card definitely to keep an eye on. If I were a big, Froculus type person, I would certainly be testing a couple of copies of this in that deck to see how it performed. It's definitely a card to keep in your memory banks. I did think a little bit about this with Witherbloom Apprentice, a card from original Strixhaven that probably no one who doesn't play a lot of Magic Online Cube or Legacy has thought of in quite some time, but because it has an infinite combo with Chain of Smog, but it doesn't really work with this. Replicate copies do trigger Magecraft, but even if it is the first thing to resolve, it will not see the spell being cast or copied, so it won't get the triggers unless it is already in play when you feed the Bog for a zillion. And if you feed the Bog for a zillion, you should just be winning anyway. That idea is not something that's going to get there, but this card does seem potentially quite powerful. And
yeah, I think it's a good card.
Even the fail case is not that bad.
Even just a 2-mana bring back your Frogger Oculus is pretty
perpetual
powerful.
+1/+1.
Yeah. It's getting even bigger. Yeah, it's a good card even at its baseline.
Yeah.
Like you can pay that much to reanimate a 3 CMC and be not terribly uncomfortable with it.
Absent the Replicated is obviously not as good as Unearth. Doesn't cycle through Graveyard Hate like Unearth does, but I would definitely be experimenting with this card in that sort of deck.
Yeah, that's a really cool one.
All right, now there are a bunch of removal spells, starting with Impose Hierarchy. 1 and a black instant, destroy target creature with mana value 4 or less. You gain 1 life for each creature card in its controller's hand. So you don't see any of them, but you get a number from Arena and gain that much life. And so the thing that imposes hierarchy on removal spells is the context of what you need to kill. So the thing that determines whether you play this over, whatever, go for the throat, power word kill, shoot the sheriff, LOL. Shoot the sheriff actually does see more play than go for the throat or power word kill in some
it's
old
just
formats,
standard where they keep printing outlaws every set, so it's just like none of the targets in standard are valid, but in every other format it's fine.
If you are playing standard, WotC is subjecting you to Warm P all the time. Warlocks, assassins, mercenaries, pirates, and
rogues. Did you say
rogues? Yeah, rogues, mercenaries, and pirates. I missed the R. But if you're playing against Jund, it kills everything in their deck. It gains you some life to help you not get burned out by Pyrogoyf. You are probably thrilled with this card. If you ever need to kill a Quantum Riddler or an Elishnorn out of Green Devotion or a Devourer of Destiny to clear the way to get over the finish line against Eldrazi, and this is the Doomblade you have in your deck, you are incredibly sad.
Yeah, I don't think you can really... I mean, Green Devotion kind of keeps this card... Unless you have somehow just like a magical matchup against Green Devotion and you're not worried about it somehow. Like, I don't really see playing this card. It doesn't kill enough things, but the life could be useful against if you're really stuck against Goyfs, because it's good against obviously blue.
It's good against blue-black, everything in blue-black except sometimes they play Riddler.
Yeah, so if you're really trying to draw out a game against blue-black, then yeah, this isn't a great removal as well. It kills a lot in blue-black, a lot in Goyfs. It does kill a lot of things in Eldrazi, just not Devourer.
It's not very good against Affinity, but it's better than Go for the Throat.
Yeah, I guess it does kill a Pinnacle Emissary and gains you 0 life, or maybe 1 for the Kappa Cannoneer stuck in their hand or something. But, like, yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's a great card, but yeah, there need to be more blades.
It's also killing Kappa Cannoneer almost exactly the same amount of the time as Power Word Kill is. Ward 4 is basically hexproof.
It might as well be, yeah.
I don't know. Also, it doesn't kill Hollow One, but it kills anything else out of that deck and gains you some life. This is probably the Doomblade that I would least like to see out of, a black deck that I was up against playing Hollow One. But yeah, I am more skeptical of this the more we talk about it. But keep it in your memory banks as the meta shifts and you move the flex slot Doomblade in your black mid-range deck. Consider this one some percentage of the time. All right, here's another one. Consumed by History. 1 in a red, sorcery. Until end of turn, whenever a non-token creature dies, it perpetually gains Unearth 5. And then it deals 3 damage to each creature. So this is, a Brotherhood's End at Pyroclasm prices. Is that... The giving everything that dies Unearth 5 is mostly downside, right? Because you're probably using this when it's killing Warrior.
Whenever a non-token. Yeah. Oh, my bad.
So
I thought it was a single target.
Almost as ineffective against a Goyf as a Pyroclasm is in the first place. And even if you do kill one with this, giving Pyrogoyf or Baragoyf Unearth 5 against Jund is just catastrophic game losing. Just a one-shot haste of either of those is going to completely bury you, even in the miracle scenario where you got a Brotherhood's End effect to mop up their board a little bit. That said, these sort of birthing ritual company style decks that are showing up a lot to try and prey on Storm variants and Phoenix, this kills Archon of Emeria.
All their dorks too, so they can't recast it easily.
Yeah, and what the fuck do you care if they unearth an Archon for 5? And if you do kill one of your own things, if they do reestablish the lock somehow, unearth 5, even for a kind of shitty card, might end up being relevant because it kind of lets you double spell at a certain point of the game. So it's certainly meta and context dependent, and it's dependent on your deck. To talk about Hollow One again, even as a deck that can use Unearth 5 on, a random whatever creature reasonably well as games go on, I am not sure how much I like this because the deck is pretty good at getting over Pyroclasm. Marauding Mako after 1 Faithless Looting survives Pyroclasm, doesn't survive this. Fear of Missing Out survives Pyroclasm, doesn't survive this. Angie's Ravager survives Pyroclasm, doesn't survive this. And
it can be pretty good against Affinity as well. I mean, it obviously doesn't do anything if they get the Kappa down, but if you can blast this off before it kills every other creature apart from Krang in the deck. So
the Pinnacle Emissary does not survive this.
And you won't have the mana anymore after this is resolved, probably.
Tameo also, which
Tameo,
Affinity sometimes
if
plays.
you play that, yeah.
So yeah, there are relevant things that this kills. It is pretty context and meta dependent, I think. I think it's not just a slam dunk, you play this over Pyroclasm every time. I think it depends
on
what
your deck,
on your deck and what you're trying to beat specifically. But
right, because like if you're, Goyfs, because I see a lot of Goyf decks playing Jar Souls, and obviously Crucius doesn't matter. They should make Crucius a 3/3 again. But yeah, it kills all of your things that aren't Goyfs. Maybe your Goyfs live, depending on your it kills. You can't play it in that deck anyway because you have so many dorks and spawns, I guess. But unless you really need it. I don't know. It's a good card. It definitely
It's a good card
play.
that we'll see some play. It's a very relevant thing in the deck builder's toolbox. More fringe thing in the deck builder's toolbox. Algorithmic Ferocity. 1 green, sorcery. Until end of turn, target creature you control gains indestructible and gets +1/+0 for each card in your hand with mana value 4 or greater. Then it fights target creature an opponent controls. So this is basically a Blizzard Brawl, except you don't need 3 snowlands to get indestructible, so you can actually play it the way people played Blizzard Brawl when it was in Standard. It's still a fight spell, or it's a fight spell that your creature is going to survive. It's sort of like a bite spell. Those are pretty fringe in
I'm going to
Historic.
put this in my Fin the Fangbearer deck.
Yeah, if you are playing hard-hitting Question, this is probably slightly better.
I play 1 for mana card in the deck. I don't need the +1 though, obviously, because all my creatures have Death Touch. I think this is a great pickup for that deck. No other deck needs this card, and that deck is not playable, but I'm going to do it anyway. So if this card's for anybody, it's for me. So
yeah. You were a big fan of Blizzard Brawl when it was in Standard.
I loved Blizzard Brawl. Yeah, you can't. There's no way to make snow mana work in any format, but except Pauper.
And Blizzard Brawl is an uncommon, right? It's not properly
it's uncommon.
Yeah. But yeah, like I said, you can play this the way people... I'm not going to pretend I've never seen Blizzard Brawl in Historic either. Like
they shouldn't be doing it. You stop.
People are crazy and will just play Standard decks from 5 years ago. And I assume they aren't interested in a slight upgrade to it. But, no, this is more than a slight upgrade. This is
especially if you're playing,
always on.
If you're playing a Standard deck you probably have 4 CMC cards, so you're actually getting +1/+0 and shit. So yeah, I don't know. This card's cool. I like it. It's not good, but all right. Up next we have Grave Studies for a black and a green instant. Conjure a card named Teacher's Pest onto the battlefield. Then each player sacrifices a creature. So it's kind of like a
Cursed
Marauder, but it has more value than that because Teacher's Pest just comes back every turn for Golgari. So
yeah, and this is also an instant. Like
instant is so much more powerful. Yeah,
Diabolic Edict is not the greatest card in Historic, but this is just Diabolic Edict with upside. If your deck has relevant synergies for teachers pesting.
Roots or whatever, yeah.
If you are a root style deck, this is main deckable removal.
I mean, people are playing Shieldred's Edict. Obviously, that has a lot more upside because if they have a bunch of tokens and a Kappa, you can get a Kappa or something.
Or
or
if they flip a Tamiyo, you can sometimes
get a
tag
Planeswalker.
that.
Is this better? Is that better? It depends on the rest of your deck.
Yeah, pretty much. Not much more to say about it than that. All right, next is Galathul Galecaller. We'll also talk about Crescendo Conductor here because it's not really good enough to talk about anywhere else. But Galecaller is 1 and a blue, a bird wizard, a 2/1 flash flying. Whenever this creature attacks, it becomes prepared. And its prepared spell is Corvid Squall. 1 and a blue, sorcery, conjure a card named Stormcrow onto the battlefield. Storm.
Hell yeah.
They couldn't actually call it Crow Storm because that is a card in some unset.
I was surprised. Like, some of these cards, how are they not already card names? Like, Consume by History, Feed the Bog, Honor the Past. There really are no cards named those things in all of Magic. I was like, that's got to already be a Magic card. But Crow Storm, an actual Magic card.
If you're a boomer who hates alchemy, Magic actually never honored the past before digital mechanics were a thing. To think about it. Anyway, this card's kind of good, right? It's harder to storm too hard on, flash this in on turn 2.
On their turn, attack.
On their turn, on your turn, cantrip, attack, Squall. That's okay in Ponder, attack, Squall. That's 2 Stormcrows in Historic for a relatively reasonable rate. It's a little better in Timeless where you could maybe figure in a Mishra's Bauble or something and storm a little harder.
Right, I was just thinking about straight up playing it in Affinity and Timeless, where you can just play all of your zeros and make mana to cast the Squall, but I don't know. That's probably, it's kind of cooked.
Yeah, in Timeless it does die to Bowmasters, although the Stormcrows don't. 2 Stormcrows walls Hydro homie forever.
Get got, nerd.
He is a 1/2 flyer. He is himself kind of a Stormcrow if you don't really think about it. And 2 of them will not allow him to attack more than once. He doesn't need to hit, so if they kill one, then he can just touch butts with your Stormcrow and keep drawing cards. But
it's a 1 toughness creature, so obviously dies to removal. But you have to kill this thing too. It also turns on Flame of Venor.
Oh yeah, it's a wizard.
This card is good, I think. I don't know. There's also some bird synergies. Probably not worth mentioning, but
it does conjure multiple times. So if you have conjure synergies, and that's why I bring up Crescendo Conductor here because I'm not going to do it anywhere else. It's a 2/2 for 2 with reach, and when you conjure 1 or more cards, it becomes prepared. It prepares Bolt Wave. This is not a playable card probably in any constructed format. But other conjure payoffs, one of the little pigs is one. Second pig, I think, is the one that when you conjure perpetually +1/+1s. That is a thing to look out for as, going back into old alchemy sets and looking forward into new ones, is that this is potentially a lot of conjures. I should have checked, actually, if the fish overlord that's not an overlord from Duskmourn, if he cares about conjure or just seek. Because if he cares about conjure, you could get a lot of morphs along with a lot of
I think it's
Stormcrows.
just seek for him, but I could be wrong.
Yeah. If he cares about conjure, I'll sneak a little fish onto this slide. If he doesn't, then he doesn't. But I do think this card's pretty good.
Also, what the fuck is a Crescendo Conductor? You just get louder all the time? How does that work? All right. Anyway, Anina, natural parallelist, 1 green blue, 1/3 human wizard, legend. Whenever you cast a spell with X in its mana cost, conjure a random creature card with mana value X onto the battlefield. And then it's got tap, add, Simic, spend this mana only to cast spells with X in their mana costs.
So I think this is mostly a brawl card. It's 3 mana. It is sort of unique in terms of a lot of these conjure random creatures in that it can hit zeros. That is almost never good because 5/6 of the zeros on Magic Arena are just X creatures that will immediately die. The 6th is Ornithopter. So
No Memnite.
1/6 of the time, if you cast an X spell with X equals 0 while this is in play, you will get an Ornithopter.
Not often that X is 0 is great, except for like Tyvar Stand or something, but
like most of the time you will just put an artifact in your graveyard. If you untap with this and cast a Green Sun Zenith for X equals 4 or 5, or a Chord of Calling for X equals a reasonable number, you are getting value off of this thing. Is it enough value that I would put this in a like Green Sun Chord deck, as part of my package to Green Sun for? I am less sure of that.
I mean, maybe if you're like birthing ritualing and stuff too, but that's a lot of things.
It is literally in competition. Like the sort of deck we said earlier that is interested in those sorts of cards is something like Nadu. And am I playing one of these to Chord or Green Sun for in Nadu? Especially historic Nadu, where Nadu doesn't actually care about going wide, so getting the extra body isn't worth 2 triggers. If getting the extra body were worth 2 Nadu triggers, then probably, or then like maybe, or it's certainly more exciting. If it's not, it's a little less exciting. This is also another card that could randomly become very good if an old card that isn't on Arena but could show up in some bonus sheet at some point helps it. Talked a little bit about things that people are doing in Modern with Geometer's Arthropod, Nourishing Shoal, Pitch, Armada Worm. If you could play this, Nourishing Shoal, Pitch, Armada Worm, most 15s are pretty good.
I would think so, yeah.
They're especially when they're free. It is another one, and this is why I like talking about alchemy sets, where keep
maybe
it in your
not
memory
now,
banks,
but
because,
someday.
yeah, this card I am kind of skeptical of right now in constructed historic, certainly constructed timeless.
It has powerful abilities. It's a little expensive, but like it could probably get there if the right amount of cards come. And that's the thing about historic too. It's like all of a sudden you have all these cards and the format's completely different. And it's not just alchemy sets, just like randomly though, like mystical archives and stuff like that. They just give us all these, powerful cards to historic all at once. So yeah, think about it,
Speaking of one of those powerful cards that itself was sort of missing a piece and maybe just got one, Echo of Eons. Here we introduce Archeomancer's Spade. 1 a red and a white for an artifact. When this artifact enters, seek 2 cards with flashback and put them into your graveyard. And it taps to add red and white. This mana can't be spent to cast spells from your hand. So as a filter rock, this is much worse than Enigma Jewel. Like you aren't gonna, although you are interested in a card that entombs Echo of Eons, you might also be interested in cards like Interplanar Beacon or Great Hall of the Citadel that could be, it's hard to cast this off those, I guess, but you might be interested in something like Interplanar Beacon or something that could cast Narset off this mana. You might just be able to use this mana in some way if...
I mean, you can use it to activate abilities, all sorts of stuff.
It goes most of the way to casting the flashback Echo of Eons apart from anything else.
Yes. I mean, yeah, I was going to say you could maybe even play this in like a Simulacrum Synthesizer, Jeskai. Play this in a Battlefront deck. That's probably a little weak in historic, but...
What are the flashback cards you're getting?
Could be anything. You could just put a couple of flashback cards for card draw or whatever you should so like to do, but I don't know if there are any flashback cards that create artifacts or make artifacts or anything, but I'd have to look into it a little more. You can also just activate abilities, and I'm sure that there's something with flashback worth putting in your graveyard.
Yeah, you can also, like, even if you are specifically looking to tutor Echo of Eons or some specific flashback spell, you can play like 4 Echo, let's just say 1 Pursue the Past for the memes. Probably 1 Faithless Looting, I guess, would be the actual one that you would be interested in. You will often hit 2 Echoes, but you will sometimes hit Echo Faithless Looting and get a little bit of extra value.
Yeah, I think it's a cool card.
If you Echo, then shuffle your graveyard into your library, you play another of these, or blink the one that you have, you get the trigger again to put other copies of Echo into your graveyard. That probably doesn't end up being relevant. I am not sure I'm the person to build this Storm deck exactly, but this is certainly the best enabler for Echo that we have, at least until such time as they they add LED craftable.
You couldn't hit it on Battlefront, but they have that 3-mana artifact that pings whenever you draw, and that would also trigger Synthesizer. So I don't know. I have a synth brain. I should remove myself from that, but I think that's kind of cool. You can kind of Bowmasters your opponent and get, things. I don't know. Okay, Expansive Reapplication. For X and Simic, X can't be 0. Counter target spell. Conjure a random creature with mana value X onto the battlefield. There's just like Momir, the set.
Yeah, also random. XD, XD, XD. This is a cancel with upside. X can't be 0. You can't just counter target spell for blue and a green and get an Ornithopter a sixth of the time. That is not allowed. But for 1 blue and green, basically a cancel, you counter target spell and get a random 1-drop. And it is a mana sink as you go up the curve. I don't know how much I like this, but it is pretty comparable to other cancels with upside that are fringe playable. Archmage's Charm, 3 steps ahead. I'm not sure the last time I saw 3 steps in Historic, but...
I mean, with that other new card, could play it as a green and a blue for a counterspell with Scalar Scholar, right?
Yeah.
So that's a bit of setup, but...
If I'm trying to build Quandrix Nadu, and I probably am, specifically, I think I like Repulsive Mutation a little better than this because it Nadus.
That is stronger anyway. It targets even if you X is 0, right?
Right. But I could very easily see a deck that was interested in a cancel with upside of some sort that wasn't in red for invert polarity, just produced a lot of mana and wanted something to sink it into as a control deck, being interested in vomiting out some 4/4 draft chaff while countering a spell. Mystic Snake is not a card that sees historic play anymore, except when you run into the standard deck from 5 years ago, which, again, you sometimes do. At 4 mana, this is probably better than Mystic Snake a lot of the time. Most 2-drops are better than the Mystic Snake body.
Yeah, I mean, so there's like, sometimes you get an MH3 2-drop and it's busted. All right, we have Glorifying Verse for Hybrid Orzhov. Enchantment, Exalted, Repartee. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell that targets a creature, conjure a card named Glorifying Verse into your hand. So, yeah, if you really are in on the attack with one creature type stuff, this is pretty good. Also, I mean, it sucks. Yeah, once again, I hate Repartee for not including enchantments. Obviously, it would be busted with stuff like this, but yeah, I don't know what deck is really looking for this, but...
Yeah, me either. It requires you to do a fair bit of work and spend a fair bit of mana. For the week that alchemy drafts are going to be around, this seems unbeatable and limited.
All Monstrous Rage get another Glorifying Verse. All Ancestral Anger getting another Glorifying Verse. Seems strong, but in Constructed, in Historic, just like, what is Exalted doing for you?
It requires you spend extra mana to get more of these as well.
And it's like Ninjas doesn't play any instants and sorceries that target except for kill spells for your opponent's creatures, so I don't know.
It is another thing where it's pretty easy. If you have some sort of conjure payoff that's good, then this is a pretty easy way to conjure a lot of stuff, and worth considering for that reason. Yeah, stacking up a lot of Exalted, it's also something that you don't see a lot in Constructed. When was the last time you heard of Rafik of the Many outside of a commander table, but is more of a limited thing? There was like an uncommon in MH3 that spent energy to stack up Exalted counters that this kind of reminds me of, that was also pretty good and fun in that format.
It's okay with a Emeritus of Conflict where you need just to get yourself stupid amounts of cards. So, I don't know. That sounds so cooked. So don't play that.
Yeah, that's like all the same usual problems that it is, again, a card that potentially conjures a lot of cards. And if you have a payoff for that, it's sort of interesting. There is that Mothlight Processionist from Duskmourn Alchemy that gives enchantments Convoke and conjures copies of itself. It is an eerie trigger, and this is a repartee trigger, and as you say, those don't play super nice together because you have to play like actual non-enchantment removal to trigger repartee, so maybe that just like round peg square hole. But it does enough that it, again, is a card to keep in the back of your mind as you try to brew in Historic.
If you're looking to make some real cooked brews, look at this, yeah. All right, up next we have ahead of the class for a white and a black 2/2 Kithkin Cleric. The first spell you cast during each of your turns that targets a creature costs Orzhov less to cast. This effect reduces only the amount of colored mana you pay. And then it has repartee. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell that targets a creature, this creature perpetually gets +1/+1.
So this card's pretty good, right? It like you just play it.
It's kind of like the uncommon one, but just better.
Well, like you play it, you push something for free, and it's a 3/3. That seems pretty good when it happens. It seems like it's a big tempo swing in the early game. You won't always have something to push, but like then I start to wonder, is this cost reduction just good enough that you go out of your mind and like reach for a card like Killian's Confidence that is good in draft but heretofore unplayable and constructed, and just, you know, play this, follow it up with a free Confidence to
every turn
draw a card, and if they play creatures, your removal kills them, and if they don't, they like have to kill this. If they can't, because, you know, it's a 2-drop and like you're pressuring their removal, and like you just keep getting back like a free draw card. It's not exactly hydro and fetch lands, but it does seem like a card that you could take seriously. Even in Timeless, actually, like, it's a turn 2, which is a turn later than you want to do this sort of thing, but like you play this, you pitch cast Grief, and you cast a free scam spell on the Grief.
Right, yeah, that's true.
You know, Ephemerate, or one that we'll talk about in a little bit. That is doing quite a bit of damage. The cost reduction is powerful. It only reduces colored pips, but those are the things that are the hardest to reduce. And
right.
That make up the bulk of the mana that you spend in powerful formats. I think this card is very good.
Yeah, I think this card's pretty good. And once again, you know, all the dies to removal stuff, but what can you do? Next, we have Inspiring Easel. Is it artifact? Tap. Add 1 mana of any color. Spend this mana only to cast instant and or sorcery spells. Choose an instant or sorcery card in your hand. It perpetually incorporates Is It and gains when you cast a spell, copy it. You may choose new targets for the copy. Activate only as a sorcery.
So I'm going to do some public service here and explain how Incorporate works, because it was in one cycle of cards in Murders at Karlov Manor Alchemy that never got much burn, although I did always like Guild Pact Greenwalker. He was even in one of the decks that we played. If you look back in the Hooting Mandrills archives for like what we would do if we had access to cards like Deathmist Raptor and Slitherhead in Historic Pioneer. So let's talk about what Incorporates does and what it doesn't do. When it says Incorporates blue-red, it adds blue-red as an additional cost to cast the spell. It does not change the mana value of the spell, and it is not something that you can get around if you cast the spell without paying its mana cost. So if you Inspiring Easel, incorporate onto your Magma Opus, cycle your Magma Opus, and then Gear Hulk it back, you will Thalia yourself out of doing the thing. You will be asked to pay blue-red, and if you do not have blue-red, you will not be able to do that. So be cognizant of this. This extra cost is very hard to get around when it comes to instants and sorceries, in comparison to creatures who you can cheat in other ways and sometimes dodge the cost on. Although no one has yet done anything quite effective enough for other Incorporate cards to see much play with it. That said, this is reasonably powerful on rate, right? If you have a lot of instants and sorceries in your deck, this is just a 2-mana rock, and this is sort of just a repeatable dual strike, or whatever copy spell you refer to for blue and a red. Blue and a red to copy a spell is not at all crazy, especially if you're spending less than a card to do it. I think this card is playable, but it is not going to do some of the things that you might want it to.
Right. Yeah, Incorporate's a little bit weird, but it's probably like, okay, I have a bunch of, we've made it to the late game. I actually can pay 5 mana for this Flame of Anor. I would like 2. Deal 10, draw 4. we're vibing, right? Like, that seems to be its kind of wheelhouse-ish. I'm sure there's other cards that you want to play it with, but Flame of Anor is the best is it card I could think of.
Ponder.
Yeah, Ponder for 3 is pretty strong. Doesn't really help for Phoenix or whatever.
Yeah, you can play this on 2 and play a kill spell. It is just a mana rock if your deck is mostly spells. So
it's pretty good with those chorus cards too. That just that's pretty expensive, but you've just increased your intensity, right?
The copied chorus will not have intensified, but it will intensify the original chorus on the stack. So if you are, say, at intensity 3 and cast an incorporated Hymn of the Ages, you will put a Hymn of the Ages on the stack. You will put a copy Hymn of the Ages at intensity 1 on the stack, draw 1 card, intensify all your other hymns, and then I think draw another 4. So it will, I think, be plus 2 cards if you intensify. If you cast in relative to wherever you were before on him, you will go plus 2 cards if you incorporate the copy onto it. And then similarly, it's like about plus 3 damage, possibly to possibly like plus 1 damage and then 2 to a different target with a copied Ribald Shanty.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like you can play this, leave up Spell Snare, leave up Spell Pierce, leave up, Kill Spell. It's a good card,
It's a 2-mana rock that fixes for a lot of the things you care about.
All of the cards that you play in your deck that aren't wizards, it taps for mana, so it's good enough.
Scintillating Encore. Hybrid Orzhov instant. Target creature you control perpetually gets +2/+0. When that creature dies this turn, return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control.
What the fuck actually is this? Like, I get it that Ephemerate is busted too, but like...
Yeah, I mean...
This is kind of crazy, right?
I mean, 5/2 Grief sure does kill faster than 3/2 Grief. 5/3 Fury kills faster than 3/3 Fury. These are facts. Doesn't improve toughness. It is in competition with Ephemerate and in the formats where cards like Grief and Fury are legal, Reanimate. But if you are like Mono Black or Rakdos Scam, you can cast this card. It is probably better than Not Dead After All in every respect other than getting Fury specifically out of bolt range. Grief is a problem that they need to solve almost twice as fast if you have this thing. 5/2 Menace when you're down 2 cards, even Grief's not that good against you. Like, that is putting a lot of pressure on your life total.
And God forbid you resolve, like, they kill your Grief and you have a second one, and then you have a 7/2 Grief.
Yeah, a second. Or they kill your Grief while you're tapped out, but you have the Reanimate. It's still a perpetual 5/2.
Perpetual 5/2, yeah. So it's definitely better than that, yeah. This card's good. It's not, like, gonna break anything, but it is definitely good.
Here's one that is cute, but I feel like I'm doing another public service in telling you that Brawl is down the hall and to the left. Soovril, Patient Antiquarian. For Boros, he's a 2/3 Vigilant Orc Cleric. He taps to put 2 time counters on target non-land card in exile that was put there from your graveyard this turn. If it doesn't have Suspend, it gains Suspend. So you have to enable this by exiling a non-land card from your graveyard first. Or, I guess, if your opponent somehow graveyard hates you into this thing, you can just tap it and get that thing on Suspend instead of in real exile. And, in 2 turns, when your, Atraxa or whatever comes off Suspend, things do come off Suspend with haste. That turn is probably going to be pretty fun for you if you get there. Are you going to get there? 2 turns is a long time.
Yeah, I don't know. It's really hard to remove. There is some stuff that removes Suspend counters. I don't know if it's on Arena, but
I feel like that is all like Doctor Who Commander stuff.
Yeah.
Or Greater Gargadon would be such a fun card to add to Arena. Like, maybe I'm wrong about that, but it seems like it would be.
It seems fun,
like,
yeah.
This Antiquarian is more patient than I am, and more patient than Historic is as a format, is my
I don't think this
assessment.
card's playable. I don't think that even with new cards, this is going to become overly playable.
I guess you could like, exile this to a Soul Cauldron, give its ability to something, and then put it on suspend. I don't know why that would be good. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, Soul Cauldron is pretty good with this card, I guess. But
Soul Cauldron does kind of play both sides of the ball, but is it better with this than it is with
good cards?
Yeah,
no.
good cards. Psychic Frog, and you know, any Yawgmoth,
yeah.
any like ability that impacts the game
whatsoever in the turn that we're actually playing.
Last, we have Sundering Sentinel. 2 double red, double white for an artifact creature construct. 6/7. Yes. You know, I think that the actual Zoomers and Gen Alpha people will forget about that, and it will just be burned into the millennial brain forever.
I don't think that we're going to let them forget, though. I think that we're going to bully them in 10 years, you know, because we were around for it. They can't bully, like, Gen X can't bully us for saying swag when we were kids, even though it was 100% a joke, and if you were serious about saying swaggy and all that stuff, that was cooked. But we were there. Like, the boomers and the Gen X were not there. They were not online.
Well, here's
when
the
we were
thing,
doing
though.
all that.
They'll just, like, sort of give you the Gen Alpha stare and not know what you were talking about because they completely forgot that this was ever a thing. And it is just your cursed millennial brain that has to remember this every time you count upwards to 10 for the rest of your life. In exchange, you have a better than usual chance of knowing how to rotate a PDF, but at what cost?
At what cost? The cost is very great, yeah.
Anyway, this thing starts at intensity 2. When it enters, it deals X damage to any target, and you gain X life, where X is its intensity. Then it intensifies. And at the beginning of your end step, exile this creature. At the beginning of your next upkeep, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. It gains haste. So it blinks out, is never playing defense, no protect, only attack, apart from, you know, the fact that it helixes every turn. And it sure does do that from the moment it comes down to every moment thereafter. It is also non-legendary, which is sort of interesting for a big doofus. So
it's 6 mana for that card that we were looking at earlier.
Yeah, non-legendary means you can persist it, and it will blink the -1 counter off it. Is that good? I don't know, but this feels like not...
It's a trap.
Premium enough as a reanimation type target, like too expensive generally for what it does, but it is kind of cool in that, what is it, Karlov of the Ghost Council type of way.
It's all, I mean, yeah, it's so expensive, so it's just not really worth talking about stuff you can do with it. I mean, obviously, it's pretty good to
I guess this is
ephemerate it because it just increases its intensity whenever it enters and stuff. You know?
This is a multicolored non-legend, so if you are trying to build Persist, you can sort of do the thing with the weird Learn Divination, where like you cast that, effectively tutor this, loot it away, and like then maybe you can follow that up with Persist. That seems like a more convoluted way than you want to do Dimir Reanimator, but I could be wrong about that. I guess, if you do it that way, you can't play Psychic Frog in your Dimir Reanimator deck, which seems very bad.
You probably want to play that one.
Yeah. You probably do not want this to be the only multicolored card in Dimir Reanimator. Yeah, again, it's kind of weird. It'll probably see a fair bit of Brawl play, because like Brawl tends to like these cards like Karlov of the Ghost Council and whatnot. I don't really see a home for it. I don't think it's good enough as a reanimation target, but it's possible I get proven wrong.
Does play off of Arena of Glory, so I guess you can get it attacking right away if you really want, but yeah, I don't really see it. Any last thoughts on these alchemy cards before we wrap?
Not really. I think that we covered most of what I had to cover.
Like, comment, subscribe.
And support the WotC Union once again. We'll have the link in the video description.